Welcome to the Powerful Podcast, where you will learn the marketing, strategies, and beliefs to grow your dream business. Totally possible, and I'm so excited to share this with you. I'm Almira Bardai, and I grew and scaled my own business from zero to multi-millions and sold the business. And now I'm here to teach you exactly how to grow and scale your business from 6 to 7 figures and more with ease, simplicity, joy, and fun with, of course, strategy, mindset, and marketing to take you to that next level. Welcome back to the Powerful Podcast with me, Almira Bardai, and we are in season 2, which is so exciting. I've had so much great feedback, and thank you for all of your support and for tuning in. It's so exciting when people are telling me that I'm queued up in their playlist for them to listen to, and that I'm actually supporting you entrepreneurs as you grow and scale your business. It's just all the warm fuzzies. So thank you so much. And today we have Abi Shamji, who I know, I'm always talking about my favorite people. And I guess I'm having my favorite people on the podcast because they are just fucking awesome. Abi is I call her a financial coach. Now, of course, the disclaimer, she can't give financial advice or things like that, and she'll get into it. But I first came across Abi a couple of years ago because I wanted to learn more about wealth building and investing, which is totally Abi's jam. I'm going to let her introduce herself and share her story and her money story. But it's all to say is that when I've privately worked with Abi, the work that we did a couple of years ago, just a couple of years ago, is already paying off in spades. I understand the stock market, my goals, what it is that I'm looking to do, and how to be a confident investor. Boom. How amazing is that? So here you go. Abi, take it away.
Thank you, Almira. What an introduction. Okay, so I'm Abi. I actually have been working in corporate finance for 15 years, and I had my first child when I was 31 years old. And everything working in corporate finance was so much fun for me. I actually did enjoy it a lot. It wasn't until I had my first child where I realized that it just wasn't working out. So I would wake up at 5 a.m., drive, an hour and a half, go to work, come home at 6 p.m., spend maybe an hour with my child, put her to bed, and then do it all again the next day. And so I realized that I wanted something different. And that's kind of when I started really going deep into investing and figuring out ways in which I can create some cash flow where that would allow me to leave my 9 to 5 job. And so, really, that was the start of my financial literacy journey. I went from helping billion-dollar companies make more money to helping women like yourself build wealth and make more for themselves just so they can, spend more time with their kids and do things that allow them to be more free and allow them to take control of their time. And
Preach,
so,
girl.
yeah, and so I just from doing all of that, I was able to build a multi-million-dollar net worth in my 30s. I was able to leave my 9 to 5 job, and I was able to start a business where I'm helping other women kind of do the same. And so that's kind of me in a nutshell. But I love the work that I'm doing now. It's so much more. It's just giving me so much more clarity and purpose, and allowing me to wake up and feel excited for the work that I do. So that's kind of me in a nutshell.
I love it. And you really are changing lives. And I think one of the things I also love about you is that there's no judgment. It's education. It is calm. It is confidence. And going back to the goals, you've been sharing and very open about your Airbnb business and about, is the goal to have cash flowing right away? Is it to hold on to the property for long-term value? And when you share all of this in social, how do I explain this? Is that I understood it. I guess that's the biggest thing is that in working with you, I got to have a mentor and an experienced person and woman, which is really important because you know where we're coming from. But to be able to have that ease-filled conversation, to be able to say, I actually don't understand, or I know what I want, but I don't know what I want because nobody's ever explained it to me. And I think that's also a big thing with women is that we see all of these manners of investing or invest in crypto, invest in gold, do this, do that. But we haven't been given that education or knowledge, if you will, as to how to actually achieve the goals that we desire and how to think through it and how to look at it critically. And more about just having the confidence and the confidence to ask questions. And that's what I love about working with you, or even just again on your social media, that you're in it to help women get wealthy. And I just love your style behind everything. And when you and I met for the first time in person, it was like, this is my girl, this is my jam. And I always love having the conversations with you. But all about wealth for women. I mean, we all know that that's important. So, what would you say to a woman who has never invested in the stock market or is afraid to? What would you say to her, and kind of what would be the first steps that you would do in working with her?
So I talk to a lot of women who are like this. So if first, what I would say is that you are not alone. This is like majority of women that I talk to. There is a level of intimidation when it comes to investing in the stock market or investing in real estate or any kind of different assets. What I will say is that I have like a I have like a step by step kind of roadmap of what to do. What I always say in the beginning is start with your goal. So, a lot of women don't attach their wealth or their investing strategy or what they do with their money to their goals. And so it's kind of like they're just on autopilot, right? Money just goes into their bank account, then they move it to pay their bills, and they might move some to savings. They might move something else here. And what I always say is be very intentional with your money. So what are your actual goals? Where do you want to be in 5 years? Where do you want to be in 10 years? Because I have there's so many different levels. Like when I met you, Almira, I remember you were like, I want like, hundreds of thousands of dollars a month. You are like you come from a place of abundance. There's a lot of other people who are like, I just want $2,000 of extra cash flow a month. And so there's a wide spectrum of that. And so the goal is what is it? What do you want your money to do for you? You don't want your
Mhm.
money to control you. You want to control your money. And so step one is really understanding where do you want to be in 5 years? Because then what you want to do is work backwards. So let's say someone comes to me and they're like, I want to buy a house in, 3 years. Well, then I would tell them you probably don't want to invest in the stock market because you don't know where the stock market's going to be in 3 years, right? Then it's like, okay, how much do you need for that down payment? How can we work backwards to figure out what needs to go into that high yield savings account now compared to, um, as opposed to just putting money randomly and hoping that it just ends up such that you end up buying that house. And so figuring out what that goal is really important. The next step is if you have determined, okay, I need to start investing in the stock market, then it's all about getting the education that you need. So I think that a lot of people the only reason that people feel uncomfortable with it is because they don't have enough knowledge about it. So the minute you are able to get that knowledge, that comfort level will go up, right? It's just a lack of knowledge when you feel uncomfortable with putting your money in the stock market. And I get it. Like no one wants to put their money in and then, be worried that it's going to go and it's your hard-earned money, right? Like you want it to grow, you don't want to lose it at all. And so understanding how the stock market works will put that mind at ease and will help you understand, what you need to do monthly. And it's not as difficult as a lot of people make it out to be. Your brain is, especially if you don't understand anything about it, your brain is convincing you that it is the most difficult thing, that only finance bros know how to do it, that, you're never going to be able to wrap your mind around it. You may as well just give it to the bank and give it to someone else to do it. And so the best thing you can do is just get more knowledgeable about it. A good coach will help, or even like a course or a coach or anyone, or you could read some books about it, go on YouTube. Like if you can understand the basics about it, then it will just put your mind at ease and you can start off slow. You can start with like $50. That's what I tell my clients is let's just start with $50. And then once you get comfortable with that idea, then we can start creating some automation such that more money is going in. And then the more that you have going in, the faster your wealth is going to grow for you. But I want to leave, like, I really want to etch this in every woman's mind out there is that you are not going to build wealth by saving money. The only
Mm,
way to build wealth is by taking your income and investing that in as much as you can. And that's the only way to basically build that wealth without you relying on your time to do it.
mm. Oh my gosh. I love that. You are not going to build wealth by saving money. So true. Oh my gosh. And I think that even men haven't been taught about investing, but I think that they have less fear, or because women have not had access to the financial tools of financial decisions, it's a bit more blurry for us, if you will. But it's actually so fun. And, I don't get a lot of impulses to shop. I'm very happy with my wardrobe. But whenever I do get an impulse to shop, I'm like, I'm shopping on the stock market. And it's really wild to be able to see it grow and to have so much fun with it. And I think also one of the things that you and I had talked about in planning out my stock portfolio was the index funds in what we called my security bucket, if you will, to have something that's a little bit more stable, that is going to give me access to more diversified stocks, and then also some fun money, that it's okay that if this one doesn't necessarily go up, but it's really fun to buy it. And for me, those are actually tech stocks. I just find the whole thing fascinating, and I'm playing with it. And yes, I've had some bombs in some areas, and I've had some amazing ones in other areas. And so it's been really fun. And especially I've got newsletters, and in the morning I'm reading about the markets, which makes me feel very fancy. But I do like to stay continually educated about it. And I feel very empowered looking at my own stock portfolio. And I just get such a rush out of it. And I want to say to women that this is not hard. And I think this is something that you also preach, that this is not hard. We can do it. And time again, there's so much talk about women being better investors than men. So it's really just a fear that's unfounded. And go do it, ladies. Absolutely do it. Going to your properties, which I know is also a big thing for you. What would you
Sorry,
say?
can we just go back? I just want to
Yeah,
mention one thing as
yeah,
you were talking about that, because another reason, and there have been studies that have talked about this, but another reason, like you mentioned, some men don't, aren't taught it, but they're more likely to do it. And part of it is because as kids, like as girls, we are not taught to take risk the way that men are, right? So we're taught to, you know, play with dolls and be
yeah.
more nurturing and all of that stuff. Men are taught to be competitive in sports and stuff like that. But also going back to, there's a study done on just looking at different articles that are targeted to men versus women. And the articles that are targeted towards women when it comes to money talk more about saving money, clipping coupons, finding cheap dupes, like stuff like that, compared to the articles targeted towards men talk more about investing, taking risk, building wealth, making more money. And so I think that's a shift, hopefully, that we're seeing now as our generation is coming up.
Yeah.
But that is like very, what we read, what we see, all of that stuff is forming our subconscious of what we can and cannot do. And it definitely, plays to this perspective of like we shouldn't be taking risk and we shouldn't be putting our money in things that we don't know about. And absolutely you shouldn't put your money in things you don't know about. But there is a lot of there's a lot that can be done when it comes to just getting the right information, getting the right education to make sure that you're not falling for these articles and falling for all of this information that is playing into women versus men. So I just want to put that
Yes.
out there
Oh
because,
my
yeah,
gosh. I'm little, and you know me, I'm never speechless, but I'm
yeah,
speechless. Wow, that's amazing. And it's funny because I'm in PR. I know about media bias, but
yeah.
I never knew to what extent that was. That is wild and crazy. Oh my gosh. It's funny. I went to a Danny Morell event, and I don't know if for anybody who's familiar, Danny Morell, it's about awakening. But he was saying is anybody in the room a single mother? And I only put up my hand because by definition, society's definition, I am a single mom, but I never call myself that. And Danny said the same thing. And he said, your nervous system will run this story, a conditioned story of a single mother, poor, in
Hmm.
poverty, struggling. So he says, never call yourself a single mother. And so it's so true because it is the conditioning, or now you're talking about the media who is genderifying our roles even more, or again, brainwashing. So that is wild that those articles are targeted like that. Oh my gosh. Thank you for sharing that. Um, Going to your properties. Yeah,
Okay.
tell us more about that and how you got into it. And I also know that you've done renos and you've done cash flow plans. And by the way, as Abby and I are talking about this, please don't be overwhelmed by all of it. It's actually very, very simple. I'm just going to give you some insights and the behind the scenes as to what Abby does. This is not to turn off any listeners because, again, I know what we're like, that we're like, oh my God, I'm so behind. I could never do this. This is meant to give you insights and to calm you down about how possible it is. So don't freak out. So, Abby, share the knowledge.
Okay. So I did start with one property. I want to make that very clear. This wasn't me like, let me go buy 10 different properties at once. I started it with one property. And this is when I was very young. I actually lived in that property. And then eventually, when I started, this mission of like, okay, how can I create more cash flow that is passive for myself? And I went down this financial literacy journey. I was like, okay, I need to get involved more in real estate. And so that one property has turned into like we now have uh about like close to 50 units.
Woo!
But I want to be clear, a lot of what we invest in is multifamily, so it's not single family homes. So it's not like I'm going and purchasing a single family home and then going and purchasing the next. We try to leverage um, from one property and then invest into other ones where uh, with multifamily, and just so if you don't know, multifamily means multiple units within one property. So I'm not competing against residential buyers, I'm competing against institutional buyers. So, I'm not like taking a property away from a family that
Yeah,
wants to
yeah,
buy
yeah.
it for themselves. These are like multiple units within one property. And I find A, it just cash flows better. B, it's targeted towards tenants. So, it just there, it's a different dynamic when it comes to purchasing these. But basically, the most summarized version is you are leveraging. So you are using debt to then purchase properties. And when you use, so for example, let's say I take out $100,000, purchase a property. My goal is to make sure that that property is going to return more than that $100,000 that I put in. And that is the idea of leveraging, is that you take debt, but then you are doing it in a way that is profitable and smart so that you can keep growing that. I am someone that likes to try different things. So we tried Airbnb, we tried midterm rentals, we actually have now a situation where we invest as money partners. So we partner with investors that are able to purchase, take our money, and then, do a bunch of renovations, refinance that so we get our money back, and then we are still like we still have ownership into the buildings. And so we've tried many different things. I am, between me and my husband, I am more willing to take risks. So I have to like basically show him all the numbers before he's willing to invest. And so I am the money person in our kind of, relationship. And I am very, very diligent when it comes to what I invest in and what I don't. I do not like, this is not like I want to make $1 million, overnight. For me, it's more like, okay, how do I build wealth such that eventually we will get to a point where we don't have to worry about money? And that doesn't come quickly. I see a lot of deals and I say no to a lot of deals. And I only invest in ones where I feel comfortable saying yes to, and it's a good deal and I feel good about it. Sometimes you're going to make mistakes. Like sometimes you're going to put money into something that doesn't, have the return that you were hoping for, and that's okay. That's part of the game. But the more wealth that you build, the more risk you can take. So in the beginning, you want to start slow and you want to do things that are a lot less risky when it comes to your money. And then as you start to get more comfortable, you get to gain more knowledge, you get to build wealth and have more money, then you can take a little bit more risk. And that's kind of the path that I followed.
I love it. And it's so funny how you said that when you met me, I just want to have hundreds and millions and
Yeah.
want to be a billionaire overnight. Like it's so clear about our attitudes are even different. And it's not to say that I'm not investing, like I am and things like that. But I'm more of if I can find a way to make $1 million overnight, I
Mhm.
absolutely would. I'm kicking myself for not having bought 10 Bitcoin when it was at 12,000. I was holding down for it to be at 10,000. And if I'd bought 10, I would be a millionaire. But the difference, like it is so apparent about how our attitudes about everything, or also the patience, is
Mhm.
very, very different. And I think that's also something that women, it's almost like our risk aversion or lack of risk actually does make us better investors because it is our ability to take some time with it, sit and look at it, and just be able to be a little bit more methodical, if you will. And that's what it really is all about, is that it's about time, it's about knowledge, it's about looking at it properly, as opposed to how can I make the most money out of it right away, right now. I'd spoken with Alexandra on the podcast in season one, and she was saying that wealth is about delayed gratification. And
Mhm.
fundamentally, it is about the timing and taking the time, one, to do the research and the work, but then two, to take a really, patient and almost measured, methodical approach. And that is actually what brings the wealth and brings the wealth sooner.
Yeah, I actually like, I feel like we live in a world now where focus is a commodity that is gone. Like, right?
Yeah.
Because of the social media tools we have, our phones constantly pinging us, our emails. And so we have to now train our brains to be focused. And I, like, as I'm building my business, I have very lofty goals for my business. I always am like, how can I focus? Like, what are my routines and my procedures so that I can focus and actually stay consistent with my goals in order to achieve them. Because I think that is the biggest commodity. I think that we have, shiny object syndrome. We want to go from one thing to the next. And with anything, you have to give it enough time. And that is true with investing too. You could, like, you can't control the markets, right? So you could go in, the markets could tank. That doesn't mean that investing is bad. It just means you haven't given it enough time. And I think that's true for like building social media, for building a course, for any, like building a business, for anything. I think that focus and staying consistent and being intentional with how you spend your time and where it's going and is it moving you towards your goals and not is a lost art, and it's something that I'm constantly being like, okay, how do I improve this? How do I make this better? Meditation, they say meditation is like really good for this. I'm terrible at it. It's one of my
Yeah.
goals for 2025, but I think that people that can focus and being okay being bored, that's the other thing, is like it's okay to be bored a little bit because your life is not going to be exciting all the time, but you have to look at like overall, what are you working towards? Is it moving you towards that? And then just take those slow steps. That is ultimately those are the people that are going to win ultimately, um, and not falling for these like shiny things that come in here and there.
Yeah. What do you say to those people who are freaking out about the headlines about recession or money with the scarcity, basically all the media stuff, if you will? What do you say to all of that?
I would say that is totally normal. There is never going to be a time where our markets just go up consistently. I know it's felt like that. Like if you've been in the markets last few years, it has felt like that, but it's just not normal. Markets go through ups and downs all the time. There are cycles. There are going to be recessions. There might be a depression in our time. We don't know. The point is, markets always, always then recover to all-time highs. And so if you follow it as a science, then, for me, when markets go down, I'm like, cool, it's on sale. Like I can now make more money than I could make before. And so I think that if you can get knowledgeable about how investing works, then you can actually have it work towards, in your favor when markets go down and there are recessions and all of that stuff. I think that you have to find the opportunity in every situation. And that is no different from when, we go into a recession or things go down or things don't look the way that you were hoping they would look. And so that's what I tell myself too is, it's just an opportunity for me to put more money in and to make more money.
Yeah, I know. It's so true. They say more millionaires are built in times of recession,
Yeah.
which is so true. Yeah, I love it. Oh my gosh. This has been so valuable. If you have not been listening intently, I'm telling you, listen to this episode again because Abi is sharing jewels and precious gems in this episode. So, is there anything else that you want to share as we wrap up, Abi?
I would say the last thing is do not underestimate what you're capable of. It's so easy to look at other people, especially in this time when I think there's a lot of struggle happening right now when it comes to money. With the cost of living and things are so expensive, it's really easy to look at other people and think, why not me? Or look at a president and think, oh, my life is going to, be messed up because of that, or the economy, or this and that. There's always going to be factors that are going to work against you. But ultimately, if you do not believe you have control, then you are giving up your future. And so you have to believe that you have control over your money, over building wealth, over getting over whatever situation you are in now. And so if you believe that, then there will always be a solution that can get you out of it. And trust me when I say I've helped people go from, living paycheck to paycheck to getting out of that cycle and starting to get out of debt and starting to build wealth and get to like my whole mission is to get more women to $1 million net worth. And so I just want to end with that to
Mm,
say that I recognize that there is struggle out there, but I know that ultimately you have control over your money, over your lives. And the minute you start to believe that is the minute that your situation will change.
I love it. Love it. This is the woman making women millionaires. Boom. That is literally what this is. Thank you so much, Abi. You're such a gem, and the work that you're doing is so incredible and so needed. So thank you. And thank you for always letting me come to you with all of my questions. And I so seriously valued the time that we worked together. And like I said, my portfolio is doing so well, and I attribute it to working with you. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for tuning in to the Powerful Podcast. I've so enjoyed sharing all of my insights, all my mistakes, all of my learnings as I grew and scaled my business from 6 to 7 figures. If you enjoyed this, please leave us a review. And then I'll send you back my top 3 ways to make $10,000. And I tell you, they're super easy, super creative, and super easy for you to implement. So please drop us the review, send it over, and we will send you back with my top 3 ways to make $10,000.